What's good, everybody? We are going to be talking about a ton of stuff, including the Clippers trading away Rajon Rondo, Patrick Beverly, and what's taking place with all the rookie NFL quarterbacks. So sit back, relax, and tune in with the Victory Formation Sports Show starting now. What's good people? Jeff Lightsy Jr. here with the Black Boss channel and Victory Formation. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, and the notification bell because we upload every single day. Now, the first thing that I'm here to talk about today is the Los Angeles Clippers. There are I don't want to call them the victims of the latest trade that took place in the NBA, but they sent Rajon Rondo and Patrick Beverly packing in a deal that got them Eric Bledsoe. Now, for those of you that follow basketball, if you were like me, you're like, what's going on with this deal to go get Eric Bledsoe in a trade that sends away Patrick Beverly, Rajon Rondo, and I don't want to leave out Daniel Oturu. So I'm gonna read to you from this ESPN article. It says from Woj, it says the Los Angeles Clippers have traded Pat Bev, Rajon Rondo, and Daniel Oturu to the Memphis Grizzlies for Eric Bledsoe. The Clippers announced on Monday. Now the deal saves the Clippers $30 million in luxury tax and creates $8.3 million in trade player exception. So that's the biggest reason why they did it, because they clear $30 million in luxury tax. Now, remember, before the season this past year, Rajon Rondo got the big deal from the Atlanta Hawks, a relatively big deal, in a deal that the Lakers couldn't pay him and nobody else could really pay him. The Hawks gave him one last, nice money contract. And then a couple years ago, Patrick Beverly got a nice deal from the Clippers. So the Clippers kind of ate crow on both of those simply because they thought they were going to win the championship this year, and then Kawhi gets hurt and Paul George plays well in the playoffs, but not well enough to overcome the fact that Kawhi Leonard was hurt. And so the Clippers were kind of, messed over from the beginning. Now we know Kawhi's going to miss most, if not all of next season, right? He's going to miss most, if not all of next season. So there's no point of keeping Pat Bev and Rondo around if they're going to cost you $30 million in luxury tax. So that's what happens. So you get rid of them. But see, here's the problem with getting rid of two guys, specifically Patrick Beverly. I'm going to say Patrick Beverly more than Rondo, because Pat Bev kind of is the Clippers' DNA at this point, right? He's one of those, call him a fake tough guy, real tough guy, whatever. But he was one of those pests on their team that kind of got up under the skin of some of the best players on the other team, right? He kind of fit the Clippers' identity at this point, whether you call them front runners, guys who ain't never won nothing. Pat Bev kind of fit that. And now you're losing some of that edge in your locker room. Now, Rondo wasn't as big of an acquisition as they thought he was going to be when they went and got him during the trade deadline, but Rondo can still play. Right now, do I believe both Patrick Beverly and Rajon Rondo will be on the Memphis Grizzlies roster by the start of this upcoming season? Absolutely, positively no. Rondo is the one I bet anything that's probably going to move on. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, and leave your comments in the chat. We'll use some of them and play them throughout the broadcast. But Rondo is the one I see moving on, and now there's rumors that the Sixers, once they figure out the Ben Simmons thing, is going to ship, the Memphis could potentially ship Rondo up to Philly so he can reunite with Doc. And it says, I feel so. This is Jeremy's going to talk. We're going to talk some about the rookie quarterbacks and who I think is going to be the best rookie in the NFL. And Jeremy says, I believe Justin Fields, he can have similar rookie season to Cam Newton back in 2011, but not a start like Cam's first two games. Now, Cam's first two games were nasty back then, and Cam ended up winning rookie of the year. And Justin Fields, if you've watched this platform, watched me at all, you know that I've been a Justin Fields guy from the beginning, through and through. I'm Justin Fields all the way. Justin Fields is someone I felt like should have never slipped that far, and even though he only slipped to number 11, but all the pre-draft stuff on Justin Fields was just such BS, right? That I was like, yo, I'm calling BS. And then he goes out there and proves it. 14 straight completions. I'd say he had an A in his first preseason game. He won the game. He had 2 touchdowns, 14 straight completions. There's no way in the world Justin Fields should have failed that far. But before I get to those guys, I want to talk about the Clippers a little more. The Clippers, and so What I think this trade is going to do, though, say Rondo ends up on the roster for the Memphis Grizzlies for the start of the season, him and Pat Bev, I think this will help tremendously in the growth of Ja Morant. And here's why. Because Ja Morant is already superbly talented. He's more talented than Rondo and Patrick Beverly ever were, even in the peak of their careers, right? They're really good players, but they were never this talented. I mean, this guy was the number 2 overall pick for a reason. He's just crazy talented. And his defensive efforts can become better. Well, what are Patrick Beverly and Rajon Rondo? Probably some of the things they're most known for is the way they play defense. And so if you can bring that tenacity, if you can bring that toughness, that nastiness, which Ja already has a certain amount of, but if you can bring that out of him, if you're a Patrick Beverly or a Rajon Rondo and continue and allow him to pick your brain and become a better pro, the sky is the limit for Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies. You just have to continue to build around them. Or they made some moves this offseason. They moved into the top 10 of the draft and they took a risk on a guy who has a huge boom or bust potential in Zaire Williams. He can be a huge boom because he was ranked that high in high school and a lot of people had really good thoughts on him coming out of high school. Or it could be a big bust because you took him in the top 10 and most mock drafts did not have him going in the top half of the draft. So who knows? But that is where it stands with the Memphis Grizzlies. That's how it stands with the Clippers. And Clippers didn't really get any better. I think the Clippers understand that this year is going to be a wash. But they got Kawhi Leonard locked up. They got Paul George locked up for the next few years. So they understand this year is probably going to be a wash. It's probably going to be a wash. They're looking at 2 years from now. The simple fact that Kawhi Leonard is hurt. Now, moving on to the NFL stuff. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button and leave your thoughts in the chat. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. The rookies, they all played. All the rookie quarterbacks had played at least one game in the NFL. And even the pseudo-rookie, I give Jordan Love as a rookie because he didn't play it all last year. He probably won't play it all this year. So he's like a pseudo-rookie. But the rookies that went in the first round, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, and Justin Fields all played. They all look somewhat impressive at different times during their first start in the NFL. Now, granted, it's preseason, and you can say what you want about preseason and what takes place and what it is and what it ain't and all of that. But they all played, and they all had moments, right? They all had great moments. But my favorite before they played a game and my favorite even after they play a game this year in the preseason is still Justin Fields, man. Justin Fields is going to be a star in this league. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to read some from the article that comes from Yahoo Sports because, you know, I love those guys over at Yahoo. And they're talking about Justin. First, I want to show you the picture of Justin Fields, man. Justin Fields looking good. The picture is looking real good. And he's having fun. You want to know why he's having fun? Because he is a baller. And they graded Justin Fields at A- in his first preseason game. It says, the Bears have been trying to find a legit franchise quarterback since just after World War II. Now, just imagine, think about that, guys. The Bears have been trying to find a legit starting quarterback since just after World War II. This is how big and how monumental Justin Fields, playing in the city of Chicago, playing for the Chicago Bears, being their top draft pick in the first round, and what he's going to mean to that franchise. Now some of you will say, oh, they had McMahon and he won it in 85, but McMahon, he was good for that team. Now, was he a legit, really good NFL quarterback? No, but he was good for that team. But part of the reason why that team was only good for, essentially 1 year, the 85 Bears, is because their quarterback was just okay, right? But anyway, let's keep moving on. And the fact that Buddy Ryan and Ditka fell out, but whatever. Anyway, says, no, really, Sid Luckman was their last real guy at the position, and he hung him up in 1950. Fields, the next man up in that process, got his first shot at the show on Saturday against the Dolphins. The rookie replaced Andy Dalton at the quarterback in the second quarter with short passes, and Fields finished the first half completing 7 of 12 passes for 52 yards passing and 2 rush attempts for 2 yards. In the second half, Fields' rushing ability would set things up in the passing game to an impressive degree. The most obvious example of this came when Fields' 30-yard touchdown pass to tight end Jesse James with 3:52 left in the third quarter. Field had already scored a rushing touchdown, and the Dolphins were on 1 point at this. So when the Bears went with a run action blocking. Fields rolled to his right. Well, nobody expected a Y leak, and the Y leak is what everybody got. On more than one occasion, Fields showed his ability to read the entire play and combine big play potential with impressive efficiency. So why is this important? Because, before the draft, people were saying Justin Fields couldn't read defenses. Remember, before the draft, people were saying he's one of those last guys in, first guys out. Even though we see the tape that, I don't know, he's one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the entire country, if not the most accurate quarterback in the entire country. Even though we saw the tape against him with legit competition in the Big Ten and him in the playoffs, even though we saw all of the tape, him duel head to head with the number 1 overall pick, Trevor Lawrence, and somehow, some way, people were still able to take away the fact that he wasn't that good of a quarterback prospect. Like, tell me, how do you watch him on the field across from Trevor Lawrence, Ohio State versus Clemson? This is not a mismatch of talent. This is not a mismatch of ability, right? This is not a mismatch of anything. And somehow, some way, they still said he was garbage or still wasn't good enough to be going in the top 10 or the top 5 or whatever. So that's why he falls. Bears are smartly trade up, and now they got their guy for the next 10 to 15 years because I think he is going to be a star in this league. Now, one of the other guys, Zach Wilson, put up an impressive performance because he's on a really bad team, guys. We got to remember, he is playing for the New York Jets. They are not good. They just aren't. They have a bad roster. They have a good defensive roster. They have really good players on their defense, right? And their offensive line, I think, is coming along. They got some pieces on the offensive line. But the roster as a whole is not very good. And somehow, some way, Zach Wilson was still able to make some plays. Zach Wilson still didn't do too bad. Like the Bears, the Jets have been looking for a legit franchise quarterback for a very long time. Yes, they go all the way back to Joe Namath. So the team took Wilson from BYU, the 2nd overall pick, and hope for big plays and tight window throws would outweigh his prediction for YOLO balls. In his NFL debut against the Giants, it went pretty well. Wilson finished his day with 6 completions and 9 attempts for 63 yards. He had a couple of nice deep throws, and there were some nice timing throws that he got to Corey Davis. Now, Zach Wilson, the thing is, he's coming out of BYU. He's a guy that's kind of unpredictable. You don't really know everything you're going to get from Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson is supremely talented, but he was the number 2 overall pick. And so think about it. When you take a guy that high in the draft, when you take a guy at number 2 overall, unrealistic expectations are going to be put on Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson, I think, can play. But unrealistic expectations are going to hinder him because he was the number 2 overall pick. And when you take a guy that high, fans expect him to come and produce right away. They expect him to come in and be what Robert Griffin Jr. was his rookie year. They expect him to come in and be what Joe Burrow was able to do in Cincinnati. They expect him to come in and be, what a lot of these guys have had. Kyler Murray. These guys have had a lot of success early, coming right off of college and into the NFL. But the problem is with a guy like with Zach Wilson, is the fact that he's coming from BYU. He's coming from a program that is not a traditional power when it comes to quarterbacks or even NFL players. And 2, the level of competition he played in college was not that good. It wasn't that good. It honestly wasn't good at all, right? He played my alma mater, WKU, in one of his games last year, and he lit us up. I was like, dang, this guy is like really good, right? We weren't very good at all. We finished under 500, but the fact that Zach Wilson is coming in, fans are going to expect him to do a lot. And let's keep scrolling through the article. They gave Mac Jones didn't do bad. Mac Jones didn't look bad in his debut for the Patriots. Mac Jones, I honestly think, might be the week 1 starter for New England. Leave your thoughts in the chat. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe Mac Jones will be the week 1 starter for the New England Patriots? Because I'm saying he might. I can definitely see it. I can see Mac Jones taking over and being the week 1 starter over Cam Newton. Why? Because he seems to be a professional. Not to say that Cam Newton is a professional, but he can run all the stuff that you ran when Tom Brady was there. And he seems to process the information really well. He did a lot better in his NFL debut than I expected. Now, would I have taken... Now, the only thing, I never thought Mac Jones was going to be a bad NFL quarterback. I just thought it would be stupid if they took him at number 3 overall. If the 49ers took him over a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance or one of those guys. That was the only thing. But do I think Mac Jones can be a pretty good NFL quarterback? Absolutely. Mac Jones has all the tools, to be a good NFL quarterback. He went 13 of 19 for 87 yards. Now, the thing is about the Patriots, they don't have many playmakers on their team. Like the same issues that Tom Brady had his last year in New England, Mac Jones are going to have those same issues because there's no weapons on this New England Patriots team. Like, name me a weapon. Name me somebody that's any good on the Patriots right now. I'll wait. Anybody on the outside as a receiver that's any good on the Patriots? There isn't one. There isn't one right now at all. So they're going to have to, they went out and got Kendrick Bourne, but Bourne was like a third or a fourth receiver on the 49ers. He wasn't even that great in San Francisco. So they went out and got him, and they went out and got Nelson Aguilar, who can barely catch. He can catch sometimes, but they have no real weapons on New England. So that's going to be interesting to see Mac Jones because he has the same problems Tom Brady had when he left. So, yeah, there's not going to be many run-pass options for Mac Jones. Now, Trey Lance struggled a bit. He only went, I think he went 4 for 13. Let me see if they say it in this article because I want to say he only went 4 for 13, but he had an 80-yard bomb. And that is what you go and draft Trey Lance for because the potential is unlimited. The man has an arm, a cannon for an arm, and the potential, he's barely scratching the surface of his potential. Barely scratching the surface. The man hasn't played football in almost like 2 years, right? He hasn't played any real football in like 2 years. But one, he's on a Super Bowl ready made man roster. He has a Super Bowl roster as a rookie. That's one of the biggest benefits anybody can have in this entire class. He has a Super Bowl roster. 2, he has a Super Bowl style coach, a coach that can literally get you. Not only do you have the players on the roster that can get you to the Super Bowl, but you have a coach that legit has already been to the Super Bowl as a head coach, has been to the Super Bowl as a coordinator, and knows what it takes to win in this league. We've seen Kyle Shanahan when he has his quarterback healthy. He knows what it takes to get it done on the field as a head coach. He knows what to expect from his players. He knows how to get the most out of his players, and he knows how to get it done. So that is also huge. And 3, they got weapons. Not just the roster as far as like they have a great defensive front, phenomenal. They have hella weapons on the offensive side of the ball, right? Between Deebo Samuel, they went Brandon Ayuk, the stable of running backs, Trent Williams over at the left tackle. He's locked up. He'll be there forever. Offensive line, great. Like everything that you could want in a team, the 49ers have. Like there's no real weaknesses for the 49ers besides the fact that potentially their quarterback isn't any good. So if they figured out the quarterback situation, the 49ers are going to be really, really good. So Trey Lance, he got a B performance. Like I said, I think he only went 4 for 13 rather. 4 for 13, but he's got a really good roster and he's going to be good moving forward. Now, continuing on, and he threw that 80-yard bomb that was beautiful. Trevor Lawrence, they're giving him a B-. Now, the thing with Trevor Lawrence is when you're the number 1 overall pick, what happens to number 1 overall picks? Well, how the NFL works, the number 1 overall pick goes to the worst team in football. So Trevor Lawrence is going to have to overcome the fact that the Jacksonville Jaguars are terrible. Like how Trey Lance got the benefit of going to a roster that was Super Bowl ready. Trevor Lawrence is the unlucky person that goes to the worst roster in football. The Jacksonville Jaguars are just simply not very good. And they didn't look very good in their game against the Cleveland Browns. And the Cleveland Browns are playing all their backups, and Jacksonville had a lot of starters out there. And they still couldn't move the ball. They still couldn't do anything. They still couldn't. And Trevor is going to have to ride with this. It says we didn't see much of the first overall pick. Yeah, we didn't see much because they didn't want to get him hurt. He only played a total of 15 total snaps because that offensive line is atrocious. Lawrence completed 6 of 9 passes for 71 yards. He was also sacked twice on plays that were long to develop down the field. His very first NFL snap ended in a sack by former Jacksonville Jaguars defensive line Sheldon Day, and he was taken down later in the first quarter by Porter Gustin. That's the thing. The line's not going to be very good. The team's not going to be very good. Trevor's going to have to overcome a lot of that kind of stuff. But that's what happens when you're the number overall pick. I think Trevor will be fine. Now, who do I think is going to have the best season out of all of these rookie quarterbacks? You can say I'm biased, but see, it's not going to be Trevor Lawrence, and here's why. Because the Jacksonville Jaguars, I've already stated, are terrible. The roster's horrible. He really has no weapons besides his rookies. Travis Etienne. They got Leveska, Sanault or something like that. Leveska Sanault. They have a bunch of young guys that are the weapons. They're going to be really bad. I think their defense has some players on the defense. There's some players on the defense, but it's not going to be good. So it's not going to be Trevor. It's not going to be Zach Wilson because, once again, just like Trevor, the Jets roster is horrible, right? So the only ones that have legit chances, the only thing is really comes down to three. It comes down to Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and Mac Jones. Now, the only thing between those guys is who do you think is going to play right away? Who's going to get the most snaps? And I think that, without a shadow of a doubt, is Justin Fields. Justin Fields is going to get the most snaps, and here's why. The Bears are a playoff team. They've won 8 games They've won 8 games twice over the last 2 years. So they've won 8 games last year. They won 8 games the year before. This team, and they were in the playoffs last year. Let's not forget, the Bears were drafting. When they took Justin Fields, they were in the 20s. Right? They moved up to number 11 and was able to go get Fields. So the Bears are a legit playoff team and a legit playoff roster. There's only so many times you're going to be able to try Andy Dalton out there and think that the Chicago fans are going to stand for it. Let's think about this. The Chicago Bears fans do not want to see Andy Dalton. The Chicago Bear fans do not want to see Andy Dalton. So therefore, Andy Dalton's not going to play a whole lot. Andy Dalton's going to start week 1, maybe week 2. But by week 3 and most definitely by week 4, I expect to see a whole lot, if not Justin Fields starting by week 4 this season. There's no way you get past week 4, 5, 6, 7 and think Justin Fields is not going to hit the field. They want to see Justin Fields on the field. Justin Fields is in the top 10 most sold jerseys already this season. I think 2 of Justin Fields' jerseys are 2 of the top 10 or top 5 most popular jerseys in the league. The Chicago Bear fans want to see a great quarterback behind center. They're not going to wait on Andy Dalton. It's just not it. They don't care about Andy Dalton. They don't care about the fact that Andy Dalton is an established veteran in this league and has made some things happen. None of that matters. They want to see Justin, and Justin's going to get an early bid. So that's why I think Justin Fields is going to have the best rookie year. I think him and Trevor, I think Trevor's going to play the most. Trevor and Zach Wilson, they don't even have backups, I'm not sure. I'm not, they don't even think they have backups. So they're going to play a lot of games, but they're on such bad teams. I think that there's only going to really be bad results. They're going to show that they're really good players, right? Especially Trevor Lawrence. And I think even Zach Wilson, to a certain extent, is going to show that he's a really good player. But the fact that they're on such bad teams, it's going to be hard to show. It's going to be hard to show. Justin Fields, shout out to David. Justin Fields is a beast. Fields is just nasty. He's just simply nasty, and I think he's going to be nasty for the Bears for sure for a very long time. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, and leave your comments. We'll pull them up on the screen. Now, moving on to some other quarterback play, and that is the play of the New Orleans Saints. Guys, what do you guys think about what's taking place with the New Orleans Saints? I was watching some of their preseason game, and they don't have a quarterback. I mean, Taysom Hill ain't it, and I'm not so sure Jameis Winston is it. Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill both look out of place. Now, here's the thing. Taysom Hill's not an NFL quarterback. I mean, the sooner we realize that, the better we'll all be for it. Taysom Hill is not an NFL quarterback. I repeat, Taysom Hill is not an NFL quarterback. So the sooner people start to realize that, the better we all will be, especially New Orleans Saints fans. As soon as you realize, Taysom, it ain't it. And he proved it once again, missing guys wide open, throwing these bad little jippy throws, these little rinky-dink throws. And then the fact that his best weapon, Michael Thomas, will probably miss the first half of the season because, Michael Thomas decided he pulled a Scottie Pippen. And for those of you who don't know, Michael Thomas is the best receiver on the New Orleans Saints, right? But he was kind of mad at the Saints. And, they told him, something's wrong with your foot. You probably need surgery. You need to do it as soon as the season's over. Well, Michael Thomas said, bump y'all, enjoyed his summer, and then decided to get foot surgery at the end of the offseason. So he'll probably miss a good chunk of the first half of the NFL season. Yeah, he pulled a Scottie Pippen because he was like, man, I'm going to enjoy my summer. So you're not forcing me to get this surgery. Well, that's going to cost them, and that's going to cost the Saints because now their best weapon as a receiver is out right now. Luckily for them, they still have guys like Alvin Kamara, and they still have Sean Payton as the head coach and as the pseudo offensive coordinator to be able to, make up some plays and get guys open and whatever. But if you don't have a quarterback, none of that matters, right? Like none of that matters if Taysom Hill's your starting quarterback. And if Taysom Hill's your starting quarterback, you're going to lose a lot of games, like a whole lot of games, because he's not an NFL starting caliber quarterback. And Jameis, I don't know, man. I have faith in Jameis Winston. I think Jameis Winston can play. I think Jameis Winston is a good player, or could potentially be a good player. Just, is he going to be able to prove it? Is he going to be able to do it night in and night out for the New Orleans Saints? Man, I don't know, man. It's going to be following up Drew Brees is a tough job. Like, really being the heir apparent to Drew Brees is almost impossible, man. Like, it's a job nobody really is cut out for. And so is Jameis Winston that guy? I guess we're just going to have to wait and see, because if they trot out Taysom Hill, you might as well mark it 6-11, 5-12. They're going to be a really bad team if Taysom Hill starts all 17 games for them. Hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. We're just going through a list of topics. I started off talking about the Clippers. This is the Victory Formation Sports Show. We're going to air live every weekday at 6 p.m. right here on the Black Boss channel. And if you're on Facebook, you can check me out, Jeff Lightsy Sports. I post all of this content right here on Facebook, so be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And last but not least, the AP Top 25 poll came out for college football, and there was no surprise. The Alabama Crimson Tide, they're number one. Alabama's number one, even though they had to replace like 20 starters. I don't know if it was that many, but it was a lot, including their 2 first-round receivers and their first-round quarterback. But none of that matters, because you know why? They're Alabama, so they're number one. Bryce Young, their quarterback, I think he's been named the starter by now, but he's racked up, like, if not over, close to $1 million in NIL endorsements. So Alabama's good to go. The quarterback's already rich. They're going to be a really good team. The team that I think that could actually dethrone the SEC in some of their dominance this year are the Oklahoma Sooners. You don't want to know why? Because this year, they actually have a quarterback. Well, they do a lot of times, but this time I think they have a defense that matches their play of their offense, or close to it. They don't have to completely match, because nobody in college football can stop anybody. I watched Justin Fields light up Clemson for six touchdowns in the playoffs. I watched Mac Jones in the Alabama Crimson Tide light up Ohio State for like 50 in the national championship. So nobody can stop anybody in college football, for just being honest. But with the growing play of their defense, Oklahoma will be a really, really good team. And the main reason for that, it's not just because I think their defense has finally caught up a little bit, but their quarterback, Spencer Rattler. And Spencer Rattler, for those of you who don't know who that is, Spencer Rattler will probably be, I'm predicting that he will be the number 1 overall pick in the 2022 NFL draft. Now, anything can happen, of course. Anything can happen. But I believe Spencer Rattler, with his skill set and the way he plays in the season I believe he will have for the Oklahoma Sooners, will be the number 1 overall pick in the 2022 NFL draft. And continuing down the list, Clemson, of course, they're replacing Trevor Lawrence, but they have an established guy at the quarterback position in DJ Uiagalelei. I want to say it's Uiagalelei, something like that. I'm sorry, DJ, if I messed that up. Uiagalelei. I think he's going to be really, really good. He's going to be one of those top quarterbacks in the 2023 draft, because he's only a true sophomore. Ohio State rounds out the top 4, whereas Georgia comes in at 5. A&M at 6. Now, here's a couple surprises at 7 and 8. Iowa State and Cincinnati, Notre Dame, and I would honestly say 7 through 10 are teams that probably some people didn't think were going to be ranked this high. Cincinnati at number 8, they bring back their quarterback in Desmond Ridder. And they bring back a really good team that had a good season last year. Iowa State brings back their quarterback in Brock Purdy. Texas A&M, they lost their quarterback in Kellen Mond, but they bring back a ton of talent. Jimbo has been recruiting his tail off down there in Aggieland. And they're kind of mad, but hey, it is what it is. They got to embrace Texas as they are also going to the SEC probably in the next year or two. So Georgia is the spicy team outside of the top 4 that I expect to be in the playoff next year. I think Clemson can struggle some this year. Now, the benefit that Clemson has, even though they're rebuilding, losing some guys, especially the starting quarterback Trevor Lawrence in the last 3 years, is that they're playing the ACC. And the ACC is just a chum bucket right now. It's not very good. It has one good team. If we're just being honest, in football, they have one good team. They have the Clemson Tigers. But outside of Clemson, the ACC isn't much of nothing. Georgia has an established quarterback coming back. Georgia has been one of the top teams in recruiting. Georgia has a good coaching staff and Kirby Smart and those guys down there. Georgia is the team to look out for. So my 2 teams that I'm picking preseason to look out for, even though they're ranked in the top 5 and it's not much of a surprise, but hell, you can't pick Cinderellas and sleepers in college football because it's not how it works. The top teams are the good teams every year. I can tell you, 2 years ago, I could have told you who's going to be in this top 5. 5 years from now, if the things continue the way they are, I can tell you the same teams that will be in the top 5 or the top 10 in college football because that's just how it's been over the last, probably close to a decade now, but especially in the last 5 years. If I have to pick a sleeper team, even though they're ranked in the top 5 and Oklahoma's ranked number 2 overall, the 2 teams that I could really see winning the championship, obviously Bama's there, but Oklahoma with their improved defense and I think, the best quarterback in college football, and Georgia with an established quarterback who's looking to improve his draft stock and help his team win the national championship and all the talent that they have down there with the Dogs. So those are my 2 teams out of the college football ranks that I think can have really good seasons and challenge Clemson and Alabama for college football royalty. Well, guys, I've been on here. That's all I have for today. Once again, this is Jeff Lightsy with the Victory Formation Sports Show. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. Jeff Lightsy Jr. here. And follow me on Instagram at VF Sports Show. I post content on there all the time. You can catch me here every weekday at 6 p.m. Eastern. We have the local show. I'll have guests on here sometimes. And thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Peace.